Well, today we have the honor of interviewing Senator Debbie Stabenow. Born in Gladwin, Michigan, Stabenow is a member of the Democratic Party and became the state's first female U.S. Senator after winning the 2000 election, and previously served as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives from 1997 to 2001. Senator Stabenow is retiring at the end of this year and will hand over the reins to Democrat U.S. Representative Alyssa Slotkin. Thank you so much for joining us, Senator Stabenow.
It's wonderful to be with you today, and I wish I could be there in person, but we're still working away in the Senate. So.
I understand you have a lot of work to get done, I'm sure. First question to you. Looking back over your time in public service, what are you most proud of in terms of your accomplishments?
You know, I'm often asked that, and it's tough to find one issue because I see everything through the lens of Michigan and have worked so hard to try to make things better for folks and solve problems. I would say being the leader in protecting the Great Lakes, transforming community mental health, which we're in the middle of right now, 41 new clinics in Michigan, but basically funding mental health as healthcare, not with grants that stop and start. And then, of course, I work on agriculture and really broadening the support for the kinds of things we grow, fruits and vegetables and other things in Michigan. And then, of course, the auto industry and manufacturing. So I've worked on all those things and been able to get things done. I think the biggest thing for me, though, is what I'm most proud of is the ability to work across the aisle, respect other people, get things done, because we are in a time when people think that if you don't agree on everything, you can't work together. And that is absolutely not true in a democracy. First of all, you never agree with everybody on everything, even in your own family. But what you need is to find one thing that you can agree with someone on and then solve that problem and then go on to somebody else in one thing. And that's how you get things done.
Wow. I mean, when you think about there's so much division, not just here in Michigan, but really across the country, how do you get that message across to so many people who have deep-seated beliefs and just don't believe that they can reach across the aisle and work with other people who have differing viewpoints?
Well, you know, it is challenging, particularly in a time where the media, and we're all hearing different things. There's no sort of one trusted news source now. Everybody's looking for different information, news sources, opinions, and so on. And there's a lot of those that just want to divide us, want us to be mad at each other, afraid of each other, and so on. So there's a lot of forces trying to keep us from working together, but we still can. I mean, the truth of the matter is we just need to decide that we're all human beings who care about our families and our community and, you know, want to be rewarded for our work and want to have a good quality of life. And we just need to respect differences and really just put our heads down and try to find some common sense.
Well, I hope that message gets through. What were the biggest challenges you faced as a woman in politics, and how did you overcome them? I mean, especially when we think about Hillary Clinton and then Kamala Harris not being able to make it to the White House, but you've been in politics a long time and have had to cut the mustard.
Well, Carolyn, I have been a long time. And in fact, my first office, and I had not had any intention of being involved in politics. I was 24 years old in grad school and I got involved in an effort to save a nursing home in the Lansing area. It was the only one that served low-income senior citizens. And I'd grown up around healthcare. My mom was director of nursing at the small hospital where I grew up. And so I got involved, led the effort, saved the nursing home, turned out to be living in the district of the commissioner trying to close the nursing home. So one thing led to another. I ran against him and won. Wow. And found that I loved being involved on the policy end of things, but it was hard. I mean, I remember when I came into the state house at that time, had come from chairing the Ingham County Board of Commissioners, where we built a jail and dredged a lake and did all this stuff. And at the time, the the speaker had a committee called Constitutional Revisions and Women's Rights Committee, where he wanted to put all the women. There were only 8 of us, none in the state Senate, none statewide, but he wanted all of us to be sort of over on the side, you know. And I said, no, absolutely not. I'm going to serve on the committees that affect the people I represent. But since that time, there's been a lot of change, a lot of us moving step by step, women stepping forward. Instead of waiting to be asked to run for office, women are now stepping forward and saying, I would like to do that. I believe I can contribute. That's a huge difference. And, you know, all the way to the United States Senate, where I didn't realize at the time, but in 2000, when I won, it was the first woman to beat an incumbent state senator in the country. So we've come a long way since then.
A long way, and you've been leading the way in a lot of those areas. Now, is there a particular vote or piece of legislation that stands out as a defining moment of your career that you look back on and say, wow, I did that?
You know, there's so many votes, so many things. You know, I would think one thing I would say is when I came into the Senate as a new member, I had been deeply involved in the state legislature in protecting the Great Lakes. And I came into the U.S. Senate in 2001, and our then governor, John Engler, was floating the idea of drilling for oil and gas in the Great Lakes, which horrified me. I could not believe that we would take those kinds of risks. And so the very first bill that I offered and first policy I got done was a ban on oil and gas drilling in the Great Lakes. And so I felt very, very good about that. I think that the toughest vote, the one that I really, really spent a lot of time on, was the vote on the Iraq War. We had been attacked on 9/11. I had supported our effort to go into Afghanistan, but I didn't see the evidence that Iraq was involved in this. So I listened to everything, went to all the meetings, because this is about sending people to war. And in the end, when I sat just myself in my office and looked at all the evidence, I said, would I send my son or daughter to war based on the evidence I've been given? And the answer was no. And so I couldn't send somebody else's. And so I voted no. And at the time, there was a minority of us, 23 of us, that voted no. And it turned out to be really one of my proudest moments, but it was hard. It was scary politically, because you vote no and then something happens and there you are. But it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and that was a major decision, but you stood your ground. Wow, I had no idea. Amazing. Now, how do you think your work on agriculture and the Farm Bill has shaped Michigan's rural and agricultural communities? Because I know that was so important to you and near and dear to your heart.
Absolutely. I've always been on the agriculture committee everywhere I've been. You know, I have a saying that you don't have an economy unless somebody makes something and somebody grows something. And that's what we do in Michigan. And the growing end and the food processing is 1 out of 4 jobs for us in Michigan. So it's a big deal. What I have been very focused on is expanding the American agricultural policy to include all parts of agriculture. Before I got involved in the Senate, fruits and vegetables were not a part of the Farm Bill. There wasn't support, there wasn't crop insurance, there wasn't research, and so on. And so it was a very big fight to get, there were 11 titles of the Farm Bill. I got number 12, but it took multiple years to get that done. And now we have that. So Michigan fruits and vegetable growers have many tools to support them. The other thing is small farms and urban agriculture. You know, in Detroit, we have the Great Eastern Market, which I've worked with for years, bringing money to expand the kitchen incubators and the infrastructure around Eastern Market and meat processing facilities and so on. But we have jobs being created by folks that come to Eastern Market on Saturday and Sunday, get their customer base going, expand what they're doing through the community kitchens and so on. And they're now out purchasing storefronts. You know, they're at storefronts in neighborhoods all around Detroit and all around the Metro Detroit area and beyond, creating jobs as small businesses. So for me, it's been about leveraging, this as an economic tool. And then finally, it's about access to food. Last year, I authored the first permanent summer meals program for children that get school meals during the year and don't eat in the summer. And so it seems like 3 months is a long time to go without, healthy food. And so
Absolutely.
I'll have that.
And we have definitely seen the fruits of your labor. I mean, Eastern Market is amazing, and I know firsthand so many kids, especially in the Detroit area, go without food. So thank you, thank you, thank you for all that you've done there. Can you share a story about a moment when you felt your work made a direct impact on someone's life? You know, the kind of story where somebody would come up to you even today and hug you and just say, thank you, thank you, thank you. Without you, what?
Well, let me start by saying I have had the best staff imaginable. And in fact, in Michigan, it is really historic how long folks have stayed with me. My very first hire when I was a state rep, Teresa, 42 years ago, is still with me. It's amazing. I mean, that's unheard of. And so many people who have come to work for me and then retired and so on. But the reason I mention that is that we have the best constituent services team that I can possibly think of. We've served directly 3.5 million people that had particular problems, whether it was their veterans benefits, their Social Security, maybe they needed a passport or an immigration issue, a small business issue. I mean, you name it. We help people all the time. And so I'm very proud of the fact that people will come up to me and say, you're the only person that answered my email, or your staff helped me, story after story after story. And it's so wonderful. But the other thing, the other day, someone came up to me in the airport that really meant a lot to me. When I was a state rep, I authored something called the Family Support Subsidy Act to help families of multiply impaired children, including autism, to care for their children at home rather than having them have to go to foster care or an institution. We would pay 100% of the cost if they were in foster care or in an institution, but didn't do anything to help families keep the kids at home. So we developed some way to help families. And someone came up to me and said that their son was now 30 years old, and because of the work that we did, they were able to live a really productive quality of life at home, and their parents were able to take care of them, and that it had made all the difference. And wow, that meant a lot to me.
I bet it did, because so many families are dealing with autism, and wow, what a way to make a difference in a family's life and in that child's life, now an adult. Senator Stabenow, what advice would you give to young people, particularly women who are considering a career in politics, especially the state of politics today?
Well, first of all, don't give up. I would say do it. Don't wait for somebody else to ask. As I mentioned, when I got started, a woman would not step up. None of us, because it would be viewed as too forward or too ambitious or whatever. And so everybody waited for somebody to ask them. And so now it's different. If you care, you have talent, you want to make a difference and contribute, you should step up yourself. And the biggest thing is, please don't give up. These are such complicated times. There are people with their own agendas that want to keep us divided, keep us afraid of each other. That we should not accept that. We should reject that. We have so much more in common than differences. We have still the greatest country in the world, and we need to be engaged. We need to be engaged to vote, to participate, and make sure that our country really fulfills the ideals that we were based on.
Certainly good advice. Hopefully some young people are listening to that. Now, what do you plan to focus on in your retirement?
Well, first of all, I'm going to be in Michigan. You know, I've always viewed my job as a long distance commute to work. I come home every weekend, but I'm going to be in Michigan. I want to enjoy some of those Great Lakes, and I will stay involved and contribute. But I'm not interested in working full time. Lots of folks have offered me full time jobs. I'm not interested. I want some more flexibility to be able to enjoy Michigan, spend more time with my 5 grandchildren, and I will continue, as John Lewis said, to engage in good trouble. I will just do it as a citizen.
Well, I'm telling you what, we certainly appreciate you. I know I've interviewed you many times in my career, and I have admired you and your work from afar. We thank you for all the work that you've done for this area here in the Detroit area, the great state of Michigan, and we are going to miss you, but we want you to enjoy your much-deserved retirement, Senator Stabenow.